Welcome to conference, and I'd like to also welcome Cami, who's a longtime student here at the Shala and one of our teachers who will be doing some demoing with me as well. This is the semester Why Ashtanga? Of all the different practices you could do, of all the different yoga you can do, you have chosen Ashtanga. And this semester we're going to break that down and talk about why it's such a beneficial, beautiful practice for us. And this week and next week we're focusing on the dog. So this is actually still the year of the dog. We have another month left of the dog, and looking at the dog as sort of an archetype and what are the beautiful, good qualities that we can all look to incorporate more into our lives. And the dog, if anyone out here has dogs, would be what? Present. They're never like playing with you and be like, what are we going to do tomorrow? Or, hey, we didn't do what we did yesterday, right? They're just fully in the moment. And of course, they're loving, unconditionally loving, forgiving. They're never going to pout and be mad that you didn't do the right thing or whatever. They're just playful. They're loving in a way that I always tell people, we always think angels have wings, but I think angels have paws because they love us in a way that's so unconditional and beautiful. So for all of us this year, we've been doing the metta meditation. I think it's a beautiful example of just what we try to aspire to be in our dogs, which is just fully present in life and loving and kind and forgiving and letting things go and being in the present moment. And like dogs, shake it off, that we learn better ways to physiologically shake things off and be lighter. So I was talking the last couple weeks about how Krishnamacharya taught so many different teachers, Iyengar and Pattabhi Jois and Endra Devi and his son Deskachar. And they all did the same poses, but they all did them with a very different methodology. And if I could say something that is incredibly special about the Ashtanga practice that is unique in all of these different methods, is that Ashtanga is a dog practice. And I say it's a dog practice because we do a lot of up dogs, so we do somewhere between, depending how long your practice is, somewhere between 50 to over 60 up dogs in one Ashtanga practice. And the up dog pose itself is a way for us to physiologically open our chest and our heart up, our fourth chakra up, in a way that does make us more open in life and more loving and more forgiving and able to let go. We understand more and more now with research that the body and the mind can never be separated. So in yoga, we're always bringing those two together to say, if I do something physically to breathe into my heart, I'm actually going to increase my ability to be a more open-hearted person and lighter in life. As well, in Ashtanga, we do a bunch of vinyasas, so we do anywhere between 50 to 60 some vinyasas. And in that vinyasa with up dog and down dog, we're also trying to not only keep our body warm, but we're also trying to keep our minds present. And so in that, it also helps us be more focused and be more present for life because we're training that every time we come to the Ashtanga practice. So this week and next week, I wanted to look at your dogs. I want all of us to embrace the dog within us through our up dogs and to just tweak it a little bit and see if we can be better dogs. And the first, what most of you know out there, even in our YouTube community, that I love to talk about is these two large muscles that run along the spine called the psoas muscles. The hip flexor, where it attaches to the iliacus, is how we have our range of movement in our hips. And if we look at, again, physiologically and emotionally, what's connected here is just like if I'm stressed a lot, I might get an ulcer, I might take it in my gut, or I might have pain in my shoulders because I'm stressed and I'm like this. It's the same with our hip flexors. We tend to take anger and stress and hold it in these large muscles. And we hold it in these muscles, they can become contracted, just like a muscle in your neck. And when they contract, they shorten. And where do we feel that when these muscles are contracted? In this band in this lower back. A lot of lower back pain actually comes from the psoas muscle. And so one of the things that we do every time we do up dog is we loosen up our ankles and we stretch out and lengthen out these large muscles that help us keep our backs healthy, as well as helping us open up the top part of our body as well. But we're not going to focus on the top this week. We're going to focus on the hip flexors and the lower part of the body. So I've asked Cami to do a demonstration of what up dog looks like when these large muscles that run through here are tight. So she's going to do what I call a plank dog. Plank dog meaning we'll have her come into plank first. So in up dog, we drop the hips and stretch the hip flexors. So when the hip flexor is tight, we have, come up just a little more, Cami, pretend you're a little tighter. We have this space here. You can drop your butt a little bit more. So if I'm talking about this is the hip flexor muscle and it's contracted or tight, it has no ability to drop down into the up dog because it's tightened or contracted. So we see a lot of space in here when someone is new to the practice or when someone has these area of their body is tightened. And we sometimes feel that like pinching in the lower back then as well, that over time we'll kind of demonstrate, because to be honest with you, Cami and I are going to do this. She's going to do sort of that tightened up dog, and I'm going to do sort of a dog that over time lengthens out those beautiful muscles. And the more I do the practice and the more I soften those muscles and lengthen them, the more my hips drop down to the floor and I'm able to open up the lower part of my back. And you can see where Cami is, that I'm kind of like dropping down and moving more towards my wrist as I open up through here, that we can't do initially, or we can't do when those muscles are tight. Thank you. So I'm going to ask Cami to demonstrate a simple lunge. So if you happen to have tight muscles, you know they're contracted, or they're just shortened because maybe you sit a lot throughout the day, or you drive a lot in a car, and those muscles naturally, when they're in that seated position, they're also shortened as well. They're not as long. So what I would suggest if you have really, really tight hip flexor muscles, of course, is to do a hip flexor release, but for the purposes of our up dog demonstration, we're just going to show simple lunges where you can start to stretch the muscle. And again, you can see where Cami is through here. This is the muscle as it attaches to the hip and moves up past the waist, just below the rib cage that she's stretching through here. And if you're really tight, this is just a beautiful one. If you check out your up dog before you do this particular lunge, and then you spend a few minutes on both sides, you'll find that you do your up dog again, that your up dog is going to feel a little bit more open. So then the second one that we can do again before you start your practice is we're going to have her lie down with one knee bent. And this is a beautiful way to open up the psoas muscle or to lengthen out that muscle. But you need to be careful of your knee. So if that muscle is really tight, you want to pay attention that you don't go past where your knee feels comfortable. So Cami's just initially going to start by leaning back a little bit. Starting to feel again, we can see where this muscle is stretching. And if that feels okay, then she can go all the way down. One of the things I suggest is you're going to feel your hip flexor muscle through here, but once she brings her arms up overhead, she's going to actually take that stretch a little bit higher in that muscle as well. And then to go even a little bit deeper, if all of this feels good, we're going to have her bend this knee, the opposite knee, and put the brick just somewhere between in the middle and the right cheek, so that she's kind of sitting in the middle of it off to the side, and bend this knee again. And lie back. So what you'll notice is this is actually going to take the extension even further, because she can go past where the floor would normally be here. She's going to extend the knee further down and increase, again, the stretch that runs all the way through the psoas, where it attaches to the iliacus. We call that the ilio-psoas connection. And again, doing this on both sides, if you check out your up dog before and you check out your up dog after, you're going to feel that you've been able to really drop the hips and sink a little bit closer to your wrist and a little more forward with your hips, and you're going to feel a nice release in your lower back. And that is your tip for your dog for this week. Give it a try and see if you can increase and embrace your dog a little more. Namaste.